Hey everybody, welcome to Cycle News. Today we have a pretty cool bike. Brand new KTM 390 Duke. Now 390 Duke has been one of KTM's biggest sellers ever since it came out 11 years ago. It's had a few updates in the preceding years. Had a big one I think about 5 or 6 years ago where we got a new version of the Duke. This version though is revised yet again. It's now completely Euro 5 plus, emission friendly, whatever the regulations are these days. They seem to change almost by the week. But yeah, this new one is $6,299 in the United States, and I've just spent the last sort of 3 or 4 hours ripping around the hills of Almeria in Spain on this little beast. Great little bike, really enjoyable bike. I've always liked the 390 platform. It's a very good level of performance for the size of the motor. 390cc single cylinder motor. It doesn't sound like much, but these things really do get up and boogie. They're really quite a good thing. So what's new? Well, KTM's telling us it's 95% new or revised. So you get a new cylinder head, you get slightly different internals for the engine itself, you get a new shift drum for 5th and 6th gear, so it makes shifting a little bit nicer. You also get a claimed 4.3 kilograms off the wheels, which is a substantial amount of unsprung weight that's gone. That's the kind of weight that you feel going from side to side. It aids stopping, it aids acceleration especially. The less weight you got to spin up, the faster it spins up, the faster you go. And so that's always been the goal really with handling, is just reduce unsprung weight as much as possible. It's taken a lot of the design cues from the 1290, or what is now the 1390, which we're going to be riding that tomorrow, so that's going to be a bit of fun. So to that end, you've got redesigned face here, new side panels, different seat, different passenger seats. You also get a new dash. The dash is modeled heavily on the one from the 1390, although it isn't quite the same. It basically looks the same, but it's not quite the same thing. And also too, you don't have a lot of the same electronics that a Super Duke has. You don't have a 6-axis IMU, you don't have cornering traction control, all that sort of stuff that you do with this. Incidentally, with the electronics, you still do get a decent range of electronics. You get traction control, like basic normal traction control. You can have your supermoto mode on your ABS, so you can turn off ABS on the rear, which makes it, turn it into a big supermoto, which I may or may not have had a little bit of fun doing today. Oops. One of the big things that stands out with the 390 Duke is just that engine. That engine's such a good little thing. It has such a good amount of torque for such a small motor. The throttle response is really quite nice. You've got 4 different riding modes in there, so you can really tailor how you really want that power to come in, although mind you, you're probably just going to stick it in sport or track and just leave it. Now with the frame, one of the interesting things is that the shock is now side mounted. Previously it was mounted in the center of the swing arm, now it's mounted directly on the side. And it's interesting too because everything of note is on the right hand side of the bike. That includes the front brakes. It used to be the front brake was on the left. Now the design has been completely concentrated, I guess you say, on the right side. So you get the exhaust on the right side, you get the shock on the right side, you get the brakes on the right side. The poor old left side of the bike has just been kind of forgotten about, unfortunately. So when we're shooting these bikes, in real life, we have the A and the B side. The A side is always the right and the B side is always the left. And I'll tell you what, the A side really is the right now on the 390 Duke. There's not much to talk about on the left as far as the looks go. That new frame is substantially stiffer than what it was before. It allows at least the bike to, up its performance level, quite well. It still is soft enough and gives enough flex that it'll follow the road nicely and you won't get too jolted. With the suspension as well, you get adjustable forks on this, you get compression and rebound, and on the shock you get preload and rebound. So it's a nice amount of adjustment there that you can get there and kind of tailor how you want. When I got on the bike for the test today, that thing it sunk, and I'm far too heavy for what I want to be. I'm not even going to tell you my weight because I'm bloody embarrassed about it. But yeah, I cranked the preload up 4 turns, or 4 clicks I should say. It's not 4 turns, so it gives a bit of an idea. Like, they are very softly sprung. Also, they are pretty much aimed at riders that are a bit smaller than me, shall we say. That's probably all I'll say about that. But the performance of this thing in corners is just fantastic. It's such a lovely, light, nimble, fun little motorbike. You can sit there and rail it into corners and change lines really quickly. It brakes really well. You get really good feel out of those brakes. They're not actually they're not that fancy, the brakes, but they work really well. Like, really good little things. So everything on this bike has just been ratcheted up a little bit more. You know, this is 30 years of the Duke lineup, not just the Super Duke, but the Duke lineup itself. You know, it started back in the 90s, and yeah, now we've made 30 years of these things. It's incredible. Like when you look at the lineage of Dukes that have come out, man, that's a serious amount of cool bikes. And you know, they've all got to start somewhere. In America, we don't get the 125 or the 250 Duke. We do get the 390. That's the entry point, shall we say, for the Duke lineup in America. But yeah, fantastic little bike. You know, 60, we'll call it 63. $100, 62.99. Obviously, you've got dealer charges and taxes and blah 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 on top of that in the States. So, I'm not sure exactly what it's going to cost you, but hopefully you get it out the door for $7,000. But yeah, that's up to you and your dealer. But yeah, a really cool little bike. Fantastic to see KTM still pushing that Duke name. That's them to a T now. So, really good little bike, and yeah, you'll see a lot of these around, I'm sure.